So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you very much for joining us. I'd like to seek your blessings and good wishings so that we can share something which can please the Supreme Lord and His pure devotees, and at the same time we become closer, gain a little bit of knowledge, and become much closer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just want to check, am I breaking up at all, or is it okay today?
It's okay. Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we can recite this verse from the Hari Bhakti Vilas by Sanatana Goswami. Chaturnam eva vedanam saramudatya vishnuna triyolokyo padaraya vidyasastram prakashitam.
For the benefit of the three worlds, Lord Vishnu has extracted the essence of the four Vedas and manifested the essence in the form of Bhagavad Gita.
So this is something that we've discussed at the beginning before we started looking into the Bhagavad Gita, how Vedic knowledge is so vast. It runs into billions of verses, most of which have been lost. And to understand Vedic knowledge is not going to be possible for us to go through the Vedas. So Lord Krishna has very kindly summarized the whole of the Vedas, the whole of Vedic knowledge into the Bhagavad Gita. So we are very, very fortunate to be able to have access to this Bhagavad Gita as it is, because also Prabhupada has given it as it is. So it's, we're really blessed. So what I wanted to do very quickly was just remind ourselves of the names of the first 8 chapters. So we've gone through 7 of those chapters, and it's good to just have a quick recap every now and then so that we ideally don't forget, and we sort of stay with what's going on. And one way to do that is by remembering the names. And then what we were thinking was tomorrow we can ask devotees to share a little bit from each chapter. What is the basic summary of each chapter? But today it's just the names. So would anybody, let's unmute everybody. Would anybody like to share what is the first chapter's name? The English name is fine.
Observing Brahmins.
You're not very clear, Pratanda. What is it? Can't hear you properly, Pratanda.
Nanibin?
Hello, observing the armies on the battlefield for Kurukshetra.
Well done. Thank you very much. Now, of course, if you're looking at a Bhagavad Gita, that's very acceptable. We can't check. Anybody remember the Sanskrit name at all?
Sanskrit, Arjun Vishad Yog.
Very good. Arjun Vishad Yog. Yes, Arjun's grief, Arjun's dilemma. Thank you. Very, very good, Naliman. So that's chapter 1. Chapter 2.
Contents of the Gita summarized.
Everybody except Naliman.
No, I always say number 2 as chapter 2 as a Sankhya Yoga. That's always I remember it.
That's correct. That's correct. Actually, that is the Sanskrit name. Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya is differentiating between material and spiritual. So, and that's what Krishna's first instruction is. But actually, the second chapter contains aspects of Karma Yoga as well, and Bhakti Yoga. So actually, it's summarizing the whole of the Gita. Okay, chapter 3. Anybody?
Karma Yoga.
Yes. Okay, and the name is also Karma Yoga.
Yeah.
Okay, chapter 4. Everybody except Nani Ben.
Transcendental knowledge.
Yes, very good. Aruna Ben, very good. Transcendental knowledge. And what would the Sanskrit name be?
I don't know what's the Sanskrit. I had. Where would I find that?
Um,
The Bhagavad Gita.
yeah,
It's just saying English one. So it's,
that's right. At the end of each of the chapters, we've given the name of the Sanskrit.
at the end. Okay, thank you.
But this one, knowledge means, anybody know what knowledge means in Sanskrit?
Yeah.
Gyan Yoga. So it's a very simple name, Gyan Yoga. Okay, chapter 4.
Oh,
Chapter
yes.
5.
Yeah, yes.
You've seen it, yeah. Anybody like to tell me anyway?
My yoga?
Yes, and how does it differ from chapter 3?
Bhakti.
Yeah, Pitamba, we can't hear you.
Yeah.
Bhakti Yoga.
Sorry?
Bhakti Yoga is introduced.
It's close.
It's action in Krishna consciousness.
Yes, Karma Yoga, but there's an extra element because normal Karma Yoga is where you're not attached to the fruits. But what Krishna is explaining in chapter 5 is how to not just be not attached to the fruits, but how to give those fruits to Krishna. So that becomes very close to Bhakti Yoga. And the Sanskrit name is Karma Vairagya Yoga. Vairagya means renounce. Oh, here we go again. Chapter 6. Anybody remember the name?
Jnana Yoga.
Yeah, I gave that away, didn't I? And it's also, actually the name, there's two names. There's quite a few names for this chapter. Abhyas Yoga is one, Dhyan Yoga is another one as well. Yeah. Chapter 7, we just covered that a couple of days ago.
Attaining the Supreme, attaining the Supreme.
Close. I think that's what we're doing this.
The knowledge of the absolute?
Knowledge of the absolute.
Yes, well done. Well done. Very good. And anybody would know the name? It's quite tough, this one actually. Paramahamsa Vijnana Yoga. It's a tough one. And this one is attaining the Supreme. Very good. Okay, thank you very much. So that was good. So yesterday we covered two of the themes. First theme was about asking questions, how important and relevant it is to ask questions. Very important to do that. And the second was trying to remember Krishna as much as possible so that at the end of our life, we will remember him as well. So those are the two lessons to take from this chapter. So let's go into, and in this chapter, he talks a lot about what happens at the time of death, which is very, very important for us to understand, because death is regarded to be a test, a lesson, an exam, because we don't know when this exam is going to come. So the preparation is preferably throughout our life. And if we've joined towards the end of our life, that's fantastic because you've timed it perfectly. But we can never tell when the end will be there. So that's why it's recommended that bhakti starts right from the beginning of our life. So actually, Amrita Krishna, you here? Yeah. So you don't get, you don't come, you don't get, you're busy most days, but today you're with us. So why don't you read again today? If you're able to. You might be on a call as well. Or,
just wait.
Otherwise, Gita, would you like to read? Or?
Kamakshi will read here.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you.
So which text are we? I forgot.
Oh yes, text number 9. Huh? And it goes up to 22. Goes up to 22.
Okay.
It's quite a long session, so dear devotees, please do listen quite attentively. It's a lot of instructions in this one.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Text number 9, chapter 8. One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is the smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental beyond this material nature. Text 10. One who, at the time of death, fixes his life between the eyebrows and by the strength of yoga, with an undeviating mind, engages himself in the remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion, will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 11. Persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter Omkara, and who are great sages in the renounced order, enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now briefly explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation. Text number 12. The yogic situation is that of detachment from all sensual engagements, closing all the doors of the senses and fixing the mind on the heart and the life air at the top of the head. One establishes himself in yoga. Text 13. After being situated in this yoga practice and vibrating the sacred symbol Om, the supreme combination of letters, if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and quits his body, he will certainly reach the spiritual planets. Text 14. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Pratha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. Text 15. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. Text 16. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all the places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. Text 17. By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night. Text 18. At the beginning of Brahma's day, all living entities become manifest from the unmanifest state, and thereafter, when the night falls, they are merged into the unmanifest again. Text 19. Again and again, when Brahma's day arrives, all living entities come into being, and with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. Text 20. Yet there is another unmanifest nature, which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. And when all this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. Text 21. That which the Vedantists describe as unmanifest and unfallible, that which is known as the supreme destination, that place from which, having attained it, one never returns, and that is my supreme abode. Text 22. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is greater than all, is attainable by unalloyed devotion. Although he is present in his abode, he is all-pervading, and everything is situated within him.
Thank you. I think that's it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. There was a lot in that chapter, that theme. Is, this material world is a temporary place. It's like a university where It's been created to give us life lessons. We are spiritual beings. We're living in a pretty complex world of matter, which is an incompatible situation, because we are trying to enjoy, the eternal living entity is trying to enjoy in a place which is full of temporary things. So we never get fulfillment because everything changes, everything keeps changing. We keep changing bodies, we keep changing jobs, we keep changing, I was going to say wives, but change is the order of this world. But we as spiritual beings are eternal. We are changeless, if you like. So we struggle in this world. It's incompatible with our nature. The nature of this world is incompatible with our own nature. So we become frustrated because when we try to enjoy in this world, try to find happiness, we can't. It's just not there. We may find happiness for a certain little small amount of time, but ultimately there's always going to be frustration because we've identified with this material body, with this material world, which is temporary. So whilst this material world is always changing, we recognize it as a place of misery. The spiritual world, however, is one where one can live eternally and in a blissful condition with the Supreme Lord. There are many ways by which different spiritualists try to attain that spiritual destination. And Krishna explains the different ways in these verses from text 9 to text 22. And he also explains that once they've attained that eternal abode, they won't come back. So the lesson from, if they attain that abode, of course, they won't come back, but it's not certain they will attain that abode. So what we wanted to understand in lesson number 34 is the different destinations of the different practitioners, the different types of spiritual practitioners. Where do they go? What is their destination? So firstly, we have the people who perform Vedic sacrifices. They worship the devatas and they're very pious. In return for their worship, they get fruits, they get blessings from the devatas, and they're basically following the karma kand sections of the Vedas. So they're very pious, no sinful activities necessarily. But their destination at best is the heavens. And the heavens are temporary places within this material world. Or they may come back to earth in a good family, etc., where they will, because they're very pious, they will get good karmic reactions. But the best they can attain are the heavens. And they go to heaven, they enjoy for a certain amount of time, thousands and thousands of years. And in heaven, you don't have a material body that, like we have a gross body. You have the subtle body is more prominent. And there, the enjoyment is almost unlimited, but it's only for a short period of time, thousands of years. And the body, because it's not gross, it doesn't get old. You have a garland that you wear, and when that garland withers away, that's when the life hair comes back again onto earth. And it comes through the rains, and the rains fall into the grains, and then the grains are eaten by man, which eventually turn into semen, and then the life air goes into the womb of a mother. So, and then the process of back on earth starts all over again. Karma kicks in again. Samsara. Of course, you're still in samsara even in the heavens. So that's the first type of spiritual practitioner. Then we have the karma yogi, who does his work, as Krishna recommends in the 3rd chapter, but is not attached to the fruits. But unfortunately, God may not be in the picture. So that person, again, will undoubtedly be doing great karma, great good yoga, pious activities, and attain the heavens, attain a good family perhaps in the next life. But not the spiritual world, because God is not coming to the picture. he hasn't realized that there is a supreme personality of God necessarily. Although Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga is not too far apart, yet where the absence of God, with the absence of God, it's not Bhakti, it's Karma Yoga. Then Jnana Yoga is where one tries to understand the Lord with one's intelligence and assesses what is temporary, what is real, what is spirit, and what is matter. And in that way, through knowledge, ultimately will reach the Brahman aspect of God. So we've done this, we've talked about this in previous seminars. There's three aspects to God. There is the supreme personality of Godhead himself. Then there is the Paramatma conception of the Lord, where he expands himself into every living entity. And then there's the Brahman, which is his light, his effulgence. So the best Jnana yogi can do is attain this effulgence of the Lord, which is actually not, it's part of the spiritual world, but it's a temporary place, because in the Brahman, one is inactive, but the soul is always active. So eventually the soul will get somewhat frustrated because he wants activity, and probably the direction of travel will be back into the material world again. By the inconceivable mercy of a devotee of the Lord, he may attain the spiritual world, but the likelihood is they come back to earth again. And then Astanga Yogi, which we talked about in the 6th chapter, they will attain Brahman, because they've fixed in their sadhana, they're fixed in their focus, or they may attain the Paramatma. But in this age of Kali, this Astanga Yoga is impossible, as Arjuna himself said to the Lord. And then finally we have the Bhakti Yogi. And Bhakti Yogi encompasses all of the others, but because Bhakti Yogi is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the practitioner is trying to re-establish his relationship in love with the Supreme Lord. The Bhakti Yogi can attain the spiritual world, the spiritual kingdom. So this is, we're not on a commission basis here. Krishna is not giving us a commission to say Bhakti Yoga is the best. He's just announced that in the Bhagavad Gita in several different chapters. And just a very quick idea of, we went through in a lot of detail this particular chart. So I'm not going to go through any detail, just an overview of the spiritual and the material worlds. This is the material world here which we live in, but there's millions and millions of universes. We're in just one of the smallest universes. Beyond the material world is Mahesh Dham, which is half in the spiritual world, half in the material world. Beyond Mahesh Dham is the effulgence of the Brahman, the sunshine that comes from the Lord, his effulgence. Then we have the Vaikuntha planets, where the Astanga Yogi may end up, possibly because of his Paramatma realization. And then we have Ayodhya, where the Bhaktas of Ram will relish and enjoy. And then finally we have Golok Vrindavan, where the devotees of Lord Radha and Krishna would enjoy and with the Lord eternally. So that's just a bit of an overview. And very quickly, just we've gone through this before, the yoga ladder, starting with the animal life, animalistic tendencies that we want to try to curb whilst we are on this spiritual track. Karma Kanda we've talked through, which is fruitive activities. We're trying to negotiate with the devatas. I'll do something for you, you do something for me. Then we come into Karma Yoga with these couple of stages. The higher stages, Nishkam Karma Yoga. And then Jnana Yoga, we're learning about God. Astanga Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. And here we have the different destinations. Earth, Swargalok, merging with the Brahman, the Jnanis, Dhyan, Astanga Yoga. Paramatma is the best realization one can get. But this is what we want to attain. We want to do bhakti, and our aim is possibly Golok Vrindavan, where we want to live even whilst we're living in this very body. So this is the lesson. We just want to understand where different practitioners will go, because we want to be focused. So if we know the road to central London, the shortest road, we'll take that. And if we know the other roads are long roads where there's lots of roadworks and other obstacles, we'll avoid those roads. So that's the idea of trying to understand this yoga ladder and what our goal is. So, Madhusudan Prabhu, would you like to share anything?
Haribol, Hare Krishna, everyone. Yeah. Lay down the destinations of all these different people with different goals or anything. But I like this purport. Prabhupada just says that the foremost point is that Krishna is not impersonal or void. And that it's difficult, one cannot meditate on something that's impersonal and void. It's very difficult. So thinking of Krishna is very, very easy if we take on and understand that actually the Lord is a Purusha, is a person. So this personality, and then we also know, that when we want to meditate or think of someone, we got to have at least some sort of a picture comes in a mind. If I think of Nabi, his picture will come into my mind, and his personality will come into my mind, how he says, how he walks, how he smiles, how he talks, and some of these things come along. But in the purport also, Prabhupada expands as to what the nature of the soul also, that Krishna somehow sits as the soul is actually described as all-pervading, but smaller than, the living entity is 1/10,000th part of the tip of a hair. But the Lord is so inconceivably small that he enters into the heart of this particle as well. So as super soul is even smaller than that 1/10,000th part of a tip of a hair. And Krishna is riding along with the soul. And it also says that he can enter into the atom and into the heart of the smallest and control him as the super soul. So all the living entities, although they are so tiny and small, spiritual sparks, they are so powerful as spiritual sparks. And we can understand that, and Krishna is even smaller than that. And he actually sits with all the living entities and guides them along without interfering in their desires or anything like that. He just makes the arrangements and all the facilities, in all, whether it's, it's just inconceivable somehow how Krishna does it. And that's why when the scientists try to get inside the atom, they realize an atom is such a powerful little thing. Within it, as a science teacher, I used to teach that atoms are indivisible particles. That's what they thought. But then they thought, they're not indivisible. You can divide them into electrons, protons, neutrons. Then they find that as they go into the neutron nucleus, they find that the neutrons, protons, positrons, so many different particles. It just becomes like infinite, and they find even those, those atoms are so powerful. That's why we have electricity. That's why we have atomic bombs, they can use the power within it. But Krishna is inconceivable like that, so he's actually so powerful.
Absolutely, actually. And that's one of the other lessons that we've got, I think probably tomorrow or the day after, how his nature is totally inconceivable. But in relation to this, Madhusudan Prabhu, because what we want to try to impress on the devotees is that there are different types of yogas. There is the Hatha Yoga that is very popular in the West now, and actually getting very popular in the East as well. So I think what we want to do is impress on the devotees. The lesson, if we focus on that, is that Hatha Yoga has its place, but Bhakti Yoga is always superior, because what Bhakti Yoga does is it already includes all the other different yogas.
That's why it encompasses. That's right, because within Bhakti Yoga, all the other yogas are there within it.
That's what we want to convey,
Convey,
and
yeah.
in different ways
That's right.
show them how, share how that is possible. I think that, because the other aspects you mentioned, we're going to cover. We're going to cover the personality of the Lord shortly in one of the lessons, which I've shared with you, and then the inconceivability of him. But here, I think we just want to show the devotees that actually don't have to worry about the other different yoga processes. If you just take to Bhakti Yoga, which is where the Lord is placed in the center of your life, then all the other yoga systems already are manifested within that.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry if I,
No,
like,
it's I think
yeah,
that's okay.
you've covered that very nicely here. So yeah.
So, devotees, do you have any questions, any comments on this point? Maybe some of you are practicing other yoga systems, other yoga styles, and you want to challenge what we say. Happy for you to challenge.
Hi Navi, Hare Krishna.
Sajana?
This is just a question about, obviously Hatha Yoga is very popular in the West now, but as you say, it's more of a like fitness thing. But would you say that, say practicing that, but with Krishna consciousness would be like elevating it a bit more? Or as in, would that be a good practice to go about in terms of bringing Krishna consciousness into your daily life?
Yes, definitely. If one is already engaging in Hatha Yoga, say you're doing, already having that strict practice of spending, I don't know, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour in doing different yogic postures, don't stop it, because at least you're doing something which will help the body. But if we can add Krishna to that, then that will give it some substance from the spiritual point of view. So an example would be, if one is doing breathing, for example, the pranayams, breathing in and then breathing out. That is quite common now. Swami Ramdev has done a phenomenal job of sort of putting a lot of the pharmacist businesses out of into bankruptcy by introducing this pranayams from the Patanjali yoga system. So when you're breathing in and breathing out, you could say the word Om. As soon as you say Om, because Krishna actually himself says in the Bhagavad Gita, I am Om. So he himself is Om. So if you say it, then actually you're engaging in Bhakti Yoga. But if you don't say it, you're just doing the exercise, for the physical exercise, it's good for the body, but you haven't done anything for your soul. You haven't done anything for yourself. So in this way, you're doing both. You're doing for your body, and you're also assisting yourself getting closer to Krishna. Does that make sense, Sanjana?
Yeah, that was very helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Any questions on this? Okay, we can go to the next next section. And Kamakshi, would you like to carry on reading?
Somebody else wants to. I'm happy to.
No, carry on. It's good.
Text 23. O best of the Bharatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which, passing away from this world, the yogi does or does not come back. Text 24. Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain that Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery God in the light at an auspicious moment of the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. Text 25. The mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet, but again comes back. Text 26. According to the Vedic opinion, there are two ways of passing from this world, one in light and one in darkness. When one passes in the light, he does not come back. But when one passes in the darkness, he returns. Text 27. Although the devotees know these two paths, O Arjuna, they are never bewildered. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion. Text 28. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, or undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end he reaches the supreme eternal abode.
Brilliant. So, sorry, carry on.
That's it,
So at the end of chapter 8, the Akshar Parabrahman Yoga.
Very good. And if you see the end, the last verse, Krishna again slips in this point about Bhakti Yoga. And he's saying one who accepts this path of Bhakti Yoga, he gets the results of everything, studying the Vedas, doing the sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Everything's included in Bhakti. So he's stressing it again right at the end. But the previous 6 or 5 verses, he talks about how yogis leave this world, what happens to them in different phases of the sun. So as different spiritual practices are discussed in this chapter, Krishna concludes by outlining the most effective process to attain the Supreme, Bhakti Yoga. So we just saw that, text 28, is the path of active service to God in the mode of devotion. And it's described as the topmost and quickest spiritual path. So that's just confirmation. Other processes like Ashtanga Yoga, the practitioner has to be careful of all the technicalities and intricacies, e.g. passing away when the sun is in the north or the south. So if one passes away when the sun is in the north, then one attains Vaikuntha, the spiritual world. But if one passes, who is doing this yoga, this Ashtanga Yoga, if they pass away at the wrong time, when the sun is in the south, then they remain in this world. So it's just the technicality of it. If you get it wrong, you're going to have completely different results. And we will have all heard the pastime of Bhishma Dev, who waited until the sun came to the north, and then he passed away. He knew the rules. And even though Krishna was physically present at that time, he waited for the sun, and he waited for Krishna to come as well. And before Krishna, he left his body. It's a fascinating pastime. However, the point here is that with Bhakti Yoga, which is such a powerful process, which is what we need in this Kali Yuga, where there's so much temptation, so much materialism, and we are so weak ourselves. And generally, we don't have this, our spiritual sadhana is not so strong, our practice is not so strong. So we are completely reliant on the Lord. And actually, the Bhakti Yoga, he doesn't even care where the sun is, because his dependency is only on the Lord. So the lesson from this theme today, second theme today, is that we're not Astanga yogis. We're not going to worry about the technicalities of where the sun is, etc. Because we're just going to depend on the mercy of the Lord. And even if the Lord, now this might sound a little callous or ungrateful, even if the Lord offers the bhakta all different types of liberation, the devotee won't accept them because he simply wants to serve the Lord. And this actually gives Krishna quite a dilemma. The bhakta, the devotee, will serve Krishna. And Krishna will come and say, you're doing such nice service. Just like our father or mother would come and say, Beta, you've done so nice. What can I give you? I'd like to give you something. So Krishna does the same. But the bhakta will say, I don't want anything. I just want to serve you. That's all I want to do. Now, what happens in this relationship? Because Krishna wants to reciprocate and the bhakta won't allow him because the bhakta is happy with his service and that's all he wants to do. So Krishna becomes indebted to that devotee. He becomes obliged to that devotee. And the more Krishna urges that devotee to please take something from me, the more the devotee will resist and say, no, I'm so happy just to be in your seva, in your service. The more Krishna becomes indebted. And it's a cycle which for Krishna, he left Vrindavan partly because of this. He couldn't take it anymore because the gopis, and they're the best example, he just could not reciprocate. He told them in the end, I can't do anything for you. You just be happy with your service because I can't repay you. I am indebted to you forever. There's nothing I can do for you. You just be happy. And he had to leave Vrindavan because he could not take it anymore. He was just conquered by his devotees and their love. So that is what we want to achieve. We don't want anything from the Lord. He can offer so much. There's this, this is the Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, text 29, chapter 29, text 13. He says, a pure devotee does not accept any kind of liberation. Salokya, Shrashti, Samipya, Sarupya, Ekatva, even though they are offered by the Lord. And what are these different types of liberations? Salokya is living on the same planet as God, in his world. So the devotee will say, no, that's okay, my Lord. I'm just happy serving you, whether it's on your planet, whether it's here, whether it's hell, doesn't matter to me. I'm just happy serving you. Shrashti, having the same opulence, so God can give us the same opulence that he has. Again, the bhakta will say, no, I don't want any opulence. Like Sudama, he was happy to be in the Lord's company and not ask for anything. He forgot. He was meant to ask him for help. He even forgot that because he was just so much in love with the Lord. Samipya, that's to be a personal associate with the Lord. The devotee will even reject that. Extraordinary. Sarupya, same bodily features. In Vaikuntha, the servants of Lord Vishnu, they have the same 4 hands, same bodily features. But the Krishna Bhakta, they will not accept that either. And one thing which is considered hellish is this ekatva, which is oneness with the Lord. Definitely the Bhakta will not accept that because we don't want to merge with the Lord, we want to serve him. So the devotee's mood is always this: life after life, I may remain a pure devotee at your lotus feet and serve you unconditionally. In this way, the Bhakta actually conquers the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He doesn't want to conquer the Supreme Lord, but he does it because of his mood of service, his loving mood, loving attitude towards the Lord. And the Lord cannot repay him. And therefore, we take shelter of him in that mood that, my dear Lord, I just want to serve you. Whether we die in Orlando, which is where Bhakti Charu Swami passed away, or in Vrindavan, for the devotee, it makes no difference because he's always in Vrindavan. He's always got the mood of Vrindavan. So that was it's quite a tough one to take in, especially for somebody who has heard this for the first time, because there's always a mood in this world. I do something for you, you do something for me. I worship you, my Lord, you protect me. But the devotee doesn't even ask for protection. Prahlad Maharaj, not once did he ask Lord Vishnu to protect him. His father, the king, was trying to kill him. He employed the whole kingdom to kill his 5-year-old boy. But the boy never asked for protection from the Lord. He simply was engaged in remembrance of the Lord. But the Lord automatically protected him. So that's the mood we want to cultivate with our bhakti, that we simply want to serve you. We don't want anything back from you at all. We just want to serve. So, Madhusudan Prabhu?
Yeah, Haribol, yeah. Quite a challenge, actually, you know, and for us living in an everyday life here, doing our service, try to think, how can I attain to that kind of state where I just don't want anything from the Lord? It doesn't matter, you know, I mean, and then sometimes we worry, you know, where by reading this part of the Bhagavad Gita, you know, oh, am I going to, oh, I know somebody who died at night, you know, somebody who passed away in the day, or will they be coming back, or will they be going back spiritual? So many technicalities here that Krishna has revealed, but for a devotee, you know, it doesn't matter if it's dark night, you know, we don't have to worry too much about that. It's leave it in the hands of the Supreme Lord. And otherwise we get into this corner of thinking about, well, what kind of a yoga am I involved with, you know, and where am I going with my life, you know, what's going to happen to me, and this sort of worry that, you know, we can get into all these technicalities, like, am I going to, you know, die? Because, like, say there are two ways of passing from this world, one in light and one in dark, and then there are all these different situations. Should I be in oneness with the Lord, or should I be serving in this way, that way? And it can get very confusing, but we have to understand at this stage where we are, we just got to understand that as spirit souls, you know, our nature is, by nature, we have a serving attitude, or like a serving, because it's just like fire. Fire gives out heat and light. Atma likes to serve. Whether you're serving Maya or whether you're serving the Lord, you're either going to be serving somebody. You know, you're serving in everyday life anyway, you know, and you're serving your own senses as well at the same time sometimes. So you change all that and trying to serve and understand, I want to try and serve the Supreme Lord by looking at examples, you know. I mean, to come to a stage, it's we haven't even, you know, some of us have just started chanting and trying to fix our mind on Krishna and trying to understand what Astanga Yoga, all this Hatha Yoga, this, that, but trying to get to understand Bhakti Yoga and all that. So, you know, at this stage, we just got to understand that just where do I start to serve the Lord? You know, when do I start to serve? And how can I serve the Lord? But you can start with just starting with hearing and understanding that, you know, we're serving every day. So let me serve the Supreme Lord in some way, listening to His glories first, but to come to a stage where, I was listening, I was reading a little bit about and hearing about Surdas, how Surdas was also blind in his life, and he wrote lots and lots of poems and glorified Krishna, and that's all he did. He never wanted anything from anyone. He didn't even want anything from Krishna. For us to come to that kind of stage is we leave it to Krishna. I'm not in that position to explain that as well, because I'm not there. But someone like Surdas, he actually in his life, I remember a story part where in his life, he actually, because he was blind and he used to live in Vrindavan near the Govardhan here, he used to be at the temple, the Srinathji Mandir, and he's written so many, and that's what he just used to do, bhajans and kirtan, and all the Vaishnavas used to like listening to the glories of Krishna, and that's all he did. He never wanted anything from anyone. So one day he fell into the well, and it was a dry well, it was deep, and he just couldn't get out of it because he was blind. So you think, I'm not going to shout for help from anyone. And then Krishna realizes that my devotee has actually fallen in the well, and he's not even going to ask me for anything, because I know his nature. Surda's nature is such that he is not going to ask anything from anyone, and not even from me. He's not even going to pray and say, "Oh, Krishna, please help me. I've fallen down in the well here." So Krishna says, I've got to somehow do something because he's my devotee, So Krishna comes as a Gowar, one of these coward boys around in the area, and said, "Baba, what are you falling down here? Oh, do you want me to, here, I'll give you a hand, come out." So Surdas, under those circumstances, grabbed the hand and tried to get out of the well. But as soon as he grabbed the hand, his inner vision told him that this isn't an ordinary coward boy who's come to help me. He's not just some passing by person going by. This is Krishna himself. So he grabbed the hand and he said, "I'm not going to let go of this. I'm going to keep holding this because I know this is my Lord here. My Lord has come." And but Krishna says, "Oh no, let me go, let me go." He said, No, I know who you are. I know, my heart tells me. Although I can't see with my eyes, but I can see. No, I know who you are. And he wouldn't let go of the hand. And then Krishna says, "Oh, look, but you're so holding me so tight. Leave me, it's hurting me," and all that. Krishna had to pretend that I'm just an ordinary person passing by. And then Krishna, "Leave me." But then so, "Okay, hold this hand," Krishna says. Rather than this hand, other hand.
Swap.
In swapping, Krishna realized it ran away. And Surdas is saying, "Oh, I know deep, you can run away from me, but you can't run away from, because you're already within my heart anyway. So you can't just run away." So like that, so the great devotees like that are at that stage where they don't really want anything from the Lord. They just want to glorify the Lord and serve him in some way. So we are just making baby steps here, So, but it's a start. And we're in this platform where we're trying to understand Bhakti Yoga in comparison to all the other yogas as well. So I hope that helps. But
That's good. Thank you. Thank you for that, sharing that pastime. Anybody's got any questions? Amita Krishna or Lalibel?
Yeah, just got one question. Just regarding something that Southern Prabhu actually might have covered a little bit. It's regarding passing away within daytime or darkness. Now, he said in light you come back and you never come back to the material world, but in darkness.
No. When the sun is in the north,
right,
you don't come back. So 6 months of the year, the sun will be in the north. 6 months of the year, the sun will be in the south. So the yogi who does this Astanga Yoga, he will assess where is the sun before he leaves the body. And if the sun is in the right position, the Astanga Yogi, if he's at the pinnacle of his practice, he will be able to determine when to leave and when not to leave. So when the sun is in the north, he will leave.
So if it's in the dark, in the south, whatever, if someone's chanting at that time, does he not come back then?
Yeah, chanting, you see, as if you've taken shelter of the Supreme Lord through Bhakti Yoga, then you are simply relying on the Lord. You're not going to worry. If you see what Krishna is saying, text 27 here. Although the devotees know these two paths, O Arjun, they are never bewildered.
Yeah.
They are fixed in devotion. That's the point. So if one is fixed in devotion, we don't care where the sun is. We don't care where our body is, whether it's Vrindavan or whether it's in Orlando. Makes no difference, because we're trying to be fixed in bhakti. And Madhusudan made a good point that, we're taking baby steps, but if we know the goal, if we know the end, we aspire for the end, Krishna will give us that facility to reach it. He fulfills our desires. So we should desire that we simply want to rely on the mercy of the Lord, nothing else. If we have that desire, Krishna fulfills the desire.
Thank you.
No, thank you very much. Nani Ben, did you have a question, or have you gone? Anybody else? Any questions?
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
You
Yes. Someone said me, a devotee said Srila Prabhupada, according to Vastu Shastra in Mumbai, the Murti, according to Vastu Shastra, there was a Murti in the ashram of Mumbai. It's not good according to Vastu Shastra.
Yeah.
Then Srila Prabhupada says, no problem. You have to think of Krishna. Yes.
That's right.
Yes, we devotees, if too much politics makes Jack dull, we say. We have only to rely on Krishna. Okay. Bye.
Few words, but very well said. Thank you. Actually, Prabhupada also said there may be hundreds and thousands of Rahus, because we always scared of Rahu, right? On inauspicious times, Rahu's there, let's do a yagya. But as Prabhupada said, Krishna can destroy 100 million Rahus. Just chant his holy name. That's all we have to do. Anybody? Thank you, Maitrishi Prabhu. That was a nice comment.
And now in this age, with people not being guided so well in the spiritual knowledge or material knowledge, or in Kali Yuga, everybody is so misled as well, and whether it's Ashtanga Yoga and people focus on health and how people may leave their body accidentally, and whether it's all these circumstances are so difficult and not understanding. But there are yogis who practice yoga. They can choose time of day, when they can leave their body and all that.
Like Bhishma.
And like Bhishma, there you mentioned, but Bhishma was a very elevated devotee as well. So he knew, and they'd done so much tapasya and bhakti, but ordinary jivas in Kali Yuga, just living, we managed to live up to 70, 80, 90, 100 years, don't have time to do a lot of yogas and all these siddhis and attain a situation where we decide when we leave our body. Everything is so accidental as well these days. So, for us, understanding Bhagavad Gita, and through that, we start to understand that, yes, there is such a thing as choosing right time. But if we leave it in the hands of the Lord and stay surrendered, and then when Krishna will decide for us when is the best time to leave, and and hopefully, and that's why in our culture, when somebody is very ill and they're terminally ill sometimes, then best thing is to surround that person with devotees chanting, reading Bhagavad Gita, or trying to help that person focus on spiritual aspects and on Krishna, and help them on the onward journey as such, whether they're going to end up, what kind of state they're going to end up in. And we don't even know, you know, whether what kind, like you showed in that chart, you know, whether we're going to be oneness with the Lord. The way it's you know, for the guru to sort of guide us. You know, that's how we want to live in. We want to remain in a situation where, you know, we just dasa and dasa, you know, like as Lord Chaitanya said, you know, gopi kabatakam dasa and dasa dasa. So we were a servant of the servant of the servant, and that's how we learn, you know, take the necessary steps towards our bhakti, you know.
Yeah, no, it's a good point you made, especially when somebody's at the end of their life. You know, the idea is we assist them by chanting of the holy name. That's one of the best things one can do for somebody. I remember when my father-in-law just was leaving. Luckily, everybody was around him. We got a picture of Lord there in front of him, and he just chanting like mad, you know. And that was a fantastic thing to do. He went in such a nice way. Suresh, you have a comment?
Yeah, I was, if you concentrate on the three gunas, sataguna, rajaguna, I think sometimes, you know, that could lead to bhakti, all these yogas. I think one eliminates the other, and eventually one would reach there, isn't it?
It may or may not, but the idea is if one does bhakti, when bhakti just means very straightforward, it's in connection with the Supreme Lord, Vishnu, Krishna, Rama. If one takes to bhakti yoga, i.e. hearing about him, remembering him, chanting his glories, then that already includes the Satagun, Rajagun, Tamagun. You don't have to worry about those modes of nature anymore. That's been
But
taken.
you have to concentrate on them.
Why?
Isn't it?
No,
because you
no need. No need. Because as soon
because
as you,
if you, sorry,
as soon as you take to bhakti, those fall away. Because Krishna is the boss of the three gunas. He takes care of the three gunas. That's the idea. As soon as one takes to bhakti, it's like if you have 50 pounds, the 20 pounds is already included in that. 10 pounds is already included in that. So you don't have to worry about the three gunas. You don't have to worry about transcendental jnana yoga or karma yoga because you're already at the highest level. That's why Krishna, if you see here, the last verse again, he's saying, a person who accepts the path of bhakti, devotional service, is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas. Don't have to do any studies of the Vedas. Yagyas, tapa, dan, gyan, or karma khand. Nothing is required. Simply by performing bhakti, he attains all this. So Krishna is very clear. And he's luckily given it to us in just four lines, you know, in his verses. It's a really nice verse to remember.
Thank you. Yeah.
No, thank you very much, Suresh. I appreciate your question. Huh? And actually, your point, your pastime of Surdas was very nice, Madhusudan. There is one pastime which took place in, I believe, Vrindavan, and Surdas, I believe, was the person who was part of that pastime. And I'm trying to remember who the other person was. It might have been Vallabhacharya. It was somebody else as elevated as Surdas. And what happened was an elephant was coming towards them. And everybody said, move away, elephant is coming. And Surdas said, why should I worry? The Lord is in charge. And everybody else ran away. And Vallabhacharya, or whoever this devotee was, I'll try to find out who he was. He ran up a tree, or he took shelter of a tree. And then later on, after the elephant had gone, because of course the Lord had always protects his devotees, didn't do any harm to the devotees. I think this Vallabhacharya went to Surdas and said, "You're a great devotee. you're completely reliant on the Supreme Lord to protect you. Amazing. And Surdas said, actually, I was surprised that you didn't also take shelter of the Lord in the same way. And it was a very interesting reply given by Vallabhacharya. I think it's Vallabhacharya. I'll check who it is. He said something like, why should I bother the Lord? If I can myself do something to not bother him and protect myself, ultimately we are reliant on the Lord. But if I can do something to not bother the Lord, because he's busy in his transcendental pastimes, let him continue. But I will look after myself to the best of my ability, and not bother him. Of course, I'm completely reliant on the Lord, but why should I bother him? So then Sudas realized, actually, that was a higher stage of consciousness. So in these difficult times of COVID-19, etc., I think we should also be pretty mindful, be very careful. Of course, ultimately, when we will go, who knows, right? We can control that. But we do our bit not to let the Lord divert from his pastimes. Let him continue with his pastimes. But we will try to serve him rather than him serve us by looking after us. We want to serve him. So that's an interesting angle to that pastime, to Sudas's pastimes. So anybody else, any comments? Mitra Rishi, you want to say anything else? No, okay. So if there's nothing else, we can continue with the Nashini Kavach. Thank you very much, dear devotees. It was a really nice discussion today. Thank you very much. Chapter 8, Ki Jai, Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai.
There was an example of Sabri and Lord Ram.
Yes.
Yes, very good example. Yes.
Say a bit more.
Sabri.
Yeah. I know.
Lord Ram.
Say the pastime. Tell us the pastime.
Lord Ram accepted to eat the fruits of Sabri. And Lakshman say, what are you doing? Say to Lord Ram.
Yeah.
Yes. It's an example of love of God.
Yes. Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Maitreyi Shivamu. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.